Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, today we are taking a literal sledgehammer to one of the most beloved, universally accepted rules of modern self-improvement. We're going to uncover why that relentless pursuit of quote-unquote getting 1% better might actually be the exact thing destroying your progress. It's a really fascinating look at how our total obsession with optimization can, well, completely blind us to our actual goals.
So, 37. You've probably seen this number everywhere, right? It's the famous math behind the marginal gains concept. The idea is, if you get just 1% better every single day for a year, compounding interest takes over, and by day 365, you are 37 times better than when you started. And honestly, it sounds incredibly empowering. It promises that massive success doesn't require giant leaps, just tiny, daily micro-optimizations. But while there's definitely truth to the power of compounding habits, there's a massive, hidden trapdoor in this whole philosophy that literally nobody is talking about.
Okay, let's dive into this. What if getting 1% better actually makes you worse? The reality is, making a 1% change every day doesn't automatically mean you're moving upward. You can very easily make a 1% change every day that makes you continually worse. Or, honestly, even more commonly, you make a 1% micro-adjustment every single day, but you aren't actually moving anywhere. You're just kind of fluctuating, Shifting back and forth, up and down, wasting immense energy while staying entirely static.
And that brings us to the core premise of today's explainer, the marginal gains fallacy, making daily 1% micro-optimizations that result in cumulative loss or stagnation because you are tracking the wrong metrics. See, this happens when you just assume that simply because you made a 1% change, like maybe shaving 10 minutes off of a task or automating some workflow, you've achieved a cumulative gain. The fallacy is believing that the optimization itself is the win. But in reality, you only get the gain if that 1% tweak was applied to a metric that actually matters. When you track useless data, your optimizations don't build success, they just accelerate failure.
Section 1. The AI Study Trap. A Stickman's Cautionary Tale.
Let's move to our visual narrative and see how this builds. To see how this fallacy really operates, consider the story of our highly ambitious stickman. He wants to optimize his learning routine, so he tracks a super easy metric, hours studied. He starts at a baseline of 10 hours of manual studying. Now, wanting to be 1% better, he implements a shiny new AI tool that instantly summarizes his reading. Boom! He just cut his study time down to 5 hours. Based on his metric alone, this is a massive success, right?
Well, actually, here's the tragedy. He achieved a perceived win, saving 5 hours of time. But he completely missed the hidden loss, bypassing the cognitive process of deep learning. Think about it. The reason he's studying in the first place isn't just to cross hours off a calendar. It's to retain knowledge and build deep expertise. By using the AI to do the summarizing, he bypassed the exact cognitive friction, that hard mental processing of writing and synthesizing notes that actually causes the brain to learn.
And this brilliantly illustrates the real problem. His vanity metric shows a fantastic 50% decrease in hours studied, but his actual knowledge retention, it completely fell off a cliff, a 90% decrease. He successfully optimized his way out of actually learning anything. I mean, it could have saved 100% of his time by simply not studying at all. He fell victim to the obvious target trap because he measured the exact wrong thing.
Section 2. Proxy versus outcome metrics. What are you actually tracking?
This catastrophic error really boils down to a fundamental misunderstanding of data. We have to distinguish between two types of metrics. First up, proxy metrics. These are easy-to-measure signals of progress, such as hours spent studying, pages read, or tasks checked off. We love measuring these because they're visible vanity metrics. But they are merely signals. They tell you how busy you are, sure, but they are just a proxy for the truth.
On the other side, we have outcome metrics. This is direct data on whether you achieved your actual goal, like deep knowledge retention, exam scores, or actual revenue. These are the cold, hard truths. Did you retain the knowledge? Did your business generate actual revenue? Outcome metrics are the only things that genuinely matter. But here's the catch. They're often ambiguous, delayed, and way harder to measure directly. You can't just look at a dashboard and instantly know your deep knowledge retention level. It takes intense, conscious effort.
And because outcome metrics are so difficult and honestly sometimes a bit intimidating to measure, we actively avoid them. To put that into perspective, the data shows a staggering 66% of managers will actually recommend setting easier output-based proxy targets just to avoid the risk of failure that comes with pursuing meaningful outcome targets. Let that sink in. We prefer the safety of ticking a box over the vulnerability of testing if we actually succeeded. It completely stifles real growth.
Which leads us directly to the obvious target trap.
wasting cognitive bandwidth over-optimizing easy things, like a new Notion template, instead of prioritizing hard outcomes. When we only look at easy proxy metrics, it becomes incredibly tempting to over-optimize obvious low-hanging fruit. We spend hours color-coding a database, testing a new Pomodoro timer app, or totally reorganizing our schedule. We trick ourselves into thinking this is productivity, but these things are not worth your cognitive bandwidth. They steal your time away from the difficult, unglamorous work that actually moves the needle.
Now, what's really interesting here is the stark line drawn between two very different types of people. The busy person is frantic, stressed, and fluctuating. They track vanity proxy metrics, optimize obvious targets, and constantly try to cram more tasks into their day. But then you have the dangerously productive person. They are calm, focused, and consistent. Why? Because they track true outcome metrics, and as a result, they actively choose to do less.
Section 3. Measuring what matters. Fixing the fallacy. So how do we actually become dangerously productive and avoid our stickman's fate? Here is the blueprint. First, audit your true intended outcome. Why are you really doing this task? Don't just accept a superficial answer. Second, find a direct outcome metric, like testing yourself without notes. Third, only use proxy metrics, like a daily mood check-in, if outcomes are severely delayed. And even then, know that a proxy is just a temporary checkpoint, not the finish line. Finally, embrace the performance paradox. Do less to achieve more.
To really put this into practice, you need a timeline that strings these metrics together intelligently. Let's say your long-term goal is deep knowledge integration over 30 days. On day 1, you use a proxy metric, like a quick daily mood check-in, just to ensure you're showing up. But by day 15, you must inject an outcome metric. You take a self-generated AI test. If that outcome metric shows you are failing, you immediately know that the 1% tweaks you made in the first 2 weeks were the wrong optimizations, and you can course correct before it's too late.
So the crucial point is exactly this quote. In order to get more product, you often need to do less. That's the performance paradox in a nutshell. When you align your focus solely on outcome metrics, you're going to quickly realize that 80% of your daily tasks are completely irrelevant, obvious targets. By stripping them away, you do less work, you experience way less stress, and yet you produce a massively higher quality product. You stop being a machine running until its engine catches on fire, and you become a highly strategic operator.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to look at your own to-do list today. Look at the apps you're using to track your life. Look at the habits you are so desperately trying to optimize. Ask yourself this hard question. Are you truly measuring what matters, or just getting 1% better at the exact wrong thing? It is time to stop the busy work, ditch those vanity metrics, and start focusing on the outcomes that actually define your success.